saw another thing that was talking about another article that was just talking about what some of the silver linings have been in this whole, pandemic. And I think that's one of them that you're finding there. People have been talking about how traffic is great and how pollution has been way down and a lot of other good things. I saw an article talking about how the fact that it's forcing everybody to work from home is causing employers to realize that that is a realistic option for them. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously this is overall a terrible thing, but there definitely are a few silver linings that are good to, acknowledge.
Well, I think, on the working from home topic, which is not, yeah, I mean, what I feel like is, well, just speaking from my own experience, the technology to work from home has been available to me for a long time, but culturally, I didn't do it as much. I mean, I would do some work from home, but I had a cultural and philosophical bias to work in the presence of the people that I am serving or working with. And so I haven't used work at home infrastructure and technology to its max, although it's been available to me. Like, I've done more video conferencing since this thing started than I had in like 2 years probably, even though and I didn't have to, the technology was all there because I had it available to me. I just didn't do it as a regular thing. And so I wonder, and I suspect that, well, I would say that as a question or just a wondering out loud, how many other people are like that, where it's been available to them, but the crisis is pushing them to start using tools and things that have been available that they just weren't using because they didn't have to. They didn't have to make that mental effort to flip the switch and start doing things differently until now.
I actually was wondering the same thing because I, like you, Ty, I've had the ability to work remotely with a lot of my clients, but again, I felt, I guess, the necessity to go over and see them and have face-to-face with them in person. And, now that's not available. So making use of the technology that's at our fingertips, and for the most part, it's free to people. And then also the infrastructure of us, of working remotely and being able to leverage that to its fullest. I don't think we took it. And I was wondering the same thing because I just talked to a colleague that works at an accounting firm that's traditionally paper, and for the longest time they said they were never going to go digital, and now they're having to make the switch, out of necessity and deal with clients remotely and work remotely and go paperless. So it took this kind of pandemic to turn them to realize that this is kind of the new normal. But I think where you have to see how this plays out, like if this only lasts another week, which I don't think it will, then I think everybody might be able to turn back and say, okay. But if it plays out longer, and I think it will, the way that everybody's talking, I think everybody, just like the Great Recession and the Great Depression had in the past, will change people's attitudes and their behaviors for a while, for a good long while, I think.
Well, I think it's another one of those, I think for me, it's another one of those interesting data experiments. And just like you said, if this lasts long enough, can it actually change people's habits? And I think about it as a nature versus nurture argument, because I wonder about that point. If we just all become familiar and with using video conferencing technology and not being physically present with each other, do we then all become okay with it? Or is there something inherent in our nature as human beings that even if this lasts for 6 months to a year, once it's possible for people to kind of get out and be physically present with each other again, do we just revert back to that because that's in our DNA kind of thing, right? And I say that, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's a mix of both. And I just to kind of give not a counterpoint here, but just another angle on it. I know that, like, for me personally, I've been able to work remotely as far as, privilege goes. Like, I've had bosses who are okay with it and that sort of a thing. And I've had the technology, but I've always personally found myself to be more productive in an office environment where I'm close to the people that I need to speak with and the people that I need to talk to. And so I don't think that for me personally, that's ever really going to change. So yeah, that's just kind of my counter view on it. And so I kind of do envision that if we get back to normal, that I do envision myself going back to the office and, working more of a normal life, because I just think that oftentimes is a more effective approach. But I totally get why people who had put it off for a long time and now are forced into it would then, grow to accept it and get used to it and maybe find it better than what they were used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this from even before the COVID-19 crisis. I thought about a similar topic that I think relates to this from an anthropology perspective, from an anthropological perspective, because for myself, I'm a classic introvert. I'm out there in terms of putting out content, and I've been a lecturer at university, and I don't have a problem with getting on a stage and putting on a show kind of thing. But I actually prefer a lot of alone time and not necessarily, and I don't have as much of a need to be in the presence of others as I see other people, my family, my friends, my colleagues sometimes do need. And I frame that in the context of what the leading anthropologists are saying in terms of the most recent research on the evolution of human beings, is that our communal nature is the way our DNA has developed, that our DNA has developed over time for us to be more communal, and that also theoretically has helped with the progression of mankind. And I've kind of thought about, oh, well, then I guess I'm like the one that failed to evolve, because, frankly, like, this week has been kind of cool for me to like be at home and have some social distance from people. I'm actually like, there's a certain part of me that kind of likes it, and so I'm like, but I look at it, but I bring it back to the question I was asking a minute ago in terms of, yeah, but if I'm the abnormal one, then back to your point, AJ, is like, I'm not sure that just because we have to do this for a while, it's going to train us into doing it if it's in our DNA to want to actually get together in person.
Well, I think it's just like anything. This whole thing has like really made me kind of rethink. Like, I didn't know how much I touched my face during one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either.
Right?
Well, do you think it makes you want to do it more too? Like, I feel like I have itches that I didn't have before.
Well, everybody keeps talking about it. Like,
Right.
it's making me want to do it right now.
I have facial hair. I'm like, and so I get like itchy face. I mean, I've caught myself on video like about 10 times itching my face or doing something on my face. So I guess I'm just, and my eyes get tired a lot when I look at a screen and I rub them. They're behind glasses. And I just really like started realizing how much I do it. Like, and I don't think, so I think the social distancing and this move probably, it's probably just bringing out like either the fact that you like Ty's probably one end of that example where he's really enjoyed this like social distancing or like some alone time, and I think it probably has done the exact opposite to a lot of many other people where they are like now craving some kind of human interaction. I myself, I kind of go back and forth. I need my alone time, but I definitely work better when I'm like face to face with somebody or I'm having a like in-person kind of interaction. Like, to be completely honest, it was really difficult at the beginning of the podcast just because I'm so used to like body language of seeing everybody around the table and us being able to like shoot the shit and be boys really quick before we get onto the podcast. And so I was kind of like trying to do that same thing via a computer screen or on the phone. I guess it's a muscle I haven't flexed yet, and I I think a lot of people are probably like either are going to need to flex new muscles in this new normal of either remotely or if we go back to like an augmented, version of what it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of off what you said. Some people are probably, if they're the opposite of Ty, if they're opposite of me, they are. The social distancing is driving them crazy, and I think actually that there is a potential outcome here that I haven't heard people talking about too much, but I do worry about because I do observe the people who are like the complete opposite of me, and I do worry, like, are we going to have some high rates of depression and even some fatalities potentially of people who are just who are suffering from the treatment is actually worse than the disease in some cases for some people. I wonder if that's possible.
Definitely seems plausible because, yeah, I think it's a big adjustment for a lot of people. And like you're saying, people need that social interaction. And so, yeah, I could see that as an outcome, a possible outcome.
Yeah, let's hope our mental health professionals are thinking about this and are getting ready to kind of speak out about best practices and so on. If they haven't, they probably have, and I haven't seen it yet.
Well, it's an interesting point because I work with actually a couple organizations, nonprofit organizations that are centered around mental health and then addiction. And a lot of what they do is group meetings, like that person-to-person connection is like really vital. If you listen to the recent podcast that we put out with the executive director of Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon, she states clearly that their big deliverable is peer support mentoring, and that they have groups, and that's how people really like connect with their recovery effort, is to be around other people like in person, to help through that recovery journey. And I think the same is true with like AA or NA or any of those alcohol or narcotics anonymous, where it's this group setting where nobody's judged and they come together. And I'm just wondering how that's all going to work now that we're in a digital realm. And in fact, I've heard a couple of addiction people just in that community are really scared for people's sobriety going away based on this, because they don't have that person-to-person connection for support. And I don't think you have to go as far as the addiction and mental health fields. I think, to your point, everyday people, or not everyday people, but everybody, I think, deals with either too much socialization or too little socialization at some time. It has an adverse effect on their mood and their outlook.
Well, and then you take that and it compounds with the thing we were talking about earlier, how when people are stuck inside, they tend to go to comfort type products like tobacco or alcohol or whatever their, vice is. And so you've got the social element to it. You've got the comfort element to it. And so, yeah, it seems like a perfect storm for people who are having those problems to relapse back into them. Yeah.
And I think just to compound the issue, I mean, we actually are pretty fortunate, all of us that are us being on this call and being able to do something like this, right? Because it actually isn't a universal truth that everybody has the technology or the budget to have a high-speed internet connection and the computer setups and the webcams and and all of that. Yeah, I think there is. I mean, maybe I'm somewhat wrong about that. Because going back to the fact that I haven't fully utilized available technology, I think there's probably a lot of stuff you can do on your smartphones too, with FaceTiming and maybe some web conferencing without a lot of high-tech equipment. But still, for a lot of folks that may be on a limited budget, even their ability to have a high-speed interconnection that allows for that kind of thing meant going to a cafe or the library or something like that they can't do right now.
All right, everybody, that's been our podcast. I really want to thank you all for taking the time to listen, and please share it with your colleagues, like, subscribe, do all the different things. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. Everybody stay healthy, stay safe. Have a good weekend.